Oh my god, I'm being recorded. I don't fucking know. Anyway, hello.
Hi. We
Welcome
we're,
to
we're
our
just coming off.
show.
Yeah, we're coming off the tail end of a rant that is not going to make the recording.
We're gonna
So
cut. But yeah, don't worry about the rant. We'll cut that bit out too.
yeah, we'll don't
Don't
worry
worry.
about it.
We didn't. We don't
Um,
worry about. We didn't rant about anything.
no, don't worry about it. Anyway, hi. If you were to take a bunch of white colored laundry and throw a red sock and put it in the washing machine and it come out bright red, you got the Smark Avengers.
That's us.
Anyway,
Socks in the wash.
like socks in the wash. That's what we are.
That's
That's
all
like,
we are.
oh, that sounded like very almost
Poetic.
poetic. Yeah. What are we but socks in the wash?
Socks in the wash.
Anyway, let's go ahead and apologize for maybe Dylan's mic quality. He sounds a little fuzzy today.
It's because I'm recording this in a submarine, and we aren't
Is
able to
is it
get
that
to the.
submarine that was controlled at the PlayStation remote that like imploded on itself a year or so ago?
No, because that one
Okay.
uploaded on stuff a year ago, and here I am in this one in the present day. So obviously,
Hey,
it's a different submarine.
Dylan, if you believe in yourself hard enough, you too can implode inside of a submarine going too far down into the ocean.
Let me just get this straight real quick. Corey, my co-host on the show, is actively wishing for me to be in a submarine that implodes on itself
No, I'm
thousands
just
of
saying
meters underneath the sea.
if you believe in yourself, anything's possible.
It sounds like you want me to be in that imploding submarine.
I mean, it's not like I didn't take like a massive life insurance claim out on you or anything.
Well, I wouldn't know about that because I've been in the submarine for so long.
See, exactly. Anyway, hi folks. This is the Smark Avengers. I'm Corey, and with me are Dylan and John. You've heard enough about Dylan and his fuzzy voice as he's been under the sea. But John, how's it going?
Yep, I am on dry land, so everything's good with me.
What's your movie count out right now?
249.
Very nice. I'm gonna start. That's gonna be a new bit. Well, not a bit. It's just more of like I want to keep log of that because I think in the last episode I have that in there too. So I think you've like watched 3 or 4 more movies since we recorded.
Oh, I've watched about I want to say almost 10, 12.
There you go.
2 or 3, huh?
Yeah, well, I don't remember numbers that great, which is bad because I work in data and statistics. So, speaking of data and statistics, the three of us grew up in the 1990s for the most part. And one of the big franchises that was super prevalent for us were the X-Men from Marvel. We've talked about it before, our mutual love of the characters in that world that was established. I know John's watching X-Men 97. I don't know if Dylan is. I'm not because I do not give money to Disney if I can avoid it. Um, but yes, we all grew up with it. We had Jim Lee and Claremont and all of the fantastic writers and creators who worked on the X-Men and made it such a cool thing back then. So we've done a couple of episodes in volume 3 of our show about movies. We did the MCU and we brought in some stuff about DC, and then we did a whole episode dedicated to the Sony Spider-Man movies. So today we're going to be doing an episode based off of all of the X-Men movies.
Whoop,
Yes.
whoop.
So
We're very excited.
yes. There are some of these movies. I compiled. I did what I did last time. I compiled all the movies. I've got all of their box office earnings, and I also have their Rotten Tomatoes scores. I've got averages for the stuff and whatnot. Some of these movies I forgot existed. Like at least 2 of them, I went, "Oh shit, that was the thing."
I'm interested to know which ones you forgot about now.
I don't think they'll surprise you when you find out what they are, to be frank.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we're gonna go through each of the movies, talk about it, what our thoughts were on it, and then kind of go over some things. So these movies started in the year 2000, and if you count the upcoming Deadpool movie, which is coming out in 2024 this year, that means we are close to a quarter of a century of X-Men movies.
Mhm.
which is fucking wild to think about because this filled that gap because the X-Men movies were out before Spider-Man. Like the very first Spider-Man movie was 2002. So before that, we had like I think Batman and Robin, which was out in the late 90s.
Yep.
Mhm.
So we had Batman and Robin, and that movie did not do super hot, which I found out
Mhm.
a weird thing about recently. I
Mhm.
don't know if we ever do a Batman like 90s Batman movie episode, I'll bring it up then. But
We should. We should do an episode about that.
we
Yeah.
should. There's only 4 of them. It won't take nearly as long.
Yeah.
But so these movies came out from like 2000 to 2024, just still coming out. I don't know what the future of that's going to look like with the mutant world now falling under Disney. Uh, we've already seen some hints. I think we talked about it in the Marvel episode we did where we talked about how Beast showed up in the post credits for the Marvels.
Yes.
But yeah, there are children that were born and are now approaching their mid 20s that have always had X-Men movies in their lives. And that's like
Yes.
wild for me because like I was a kid watching the X-Men cartoon, getting my hand like reading whatever issues I could get my hands on of X-Men, and like I remember being so surprised and wowed at the concept of an X-Men movie, like a live action movie.
Yeah. I have to see him. I was super hyped. So I
Mhm.
always liked the X-Men. And then when you see like that, because like the 2000s was like peak, like me being a fucking kid, a dumb, like 2000 was when I started watching wrestling too. So like whenever they would say, oh, this next Men film coming out, you'd be like, what? Really? With Gambit in it? And they're like,
No, not Gambit.
watch it and find out. So I did watch it to find out. And I got my answer. But it was still like super hype. But like you said, if you're a 90s kid, the two things you watched on TV were probably the X-Men cartoon and the Spider-Man cartoon. And for X-Men to come out in 2000 and Spider-Man to come out in 2002, like that's hype. You know what I mean? That means when you're a kid, you watch the cartoon, and then when you're a little bit older, you watch the film. Like that's good stuff.
Yeah.
So John, what was your history with the X-Men before finding out about the X-Men movie coming out?
Yeah, much in the same boat. Big fan of the cartoon. And then obviously when the news came out and like the trailers appeared and stuff like that, it was like, oh holy shit, this is awesome. But then like you look at it and obviously it didn't sort of like you see the trailer or whatever, and they're not exactly wearing the bright yellow costumes or anything, and it's
Mm.
a bit of a different look for the X-Men, which you know I guess they were cowards back then. They didn't have the guts to go the full 90s neon.
Well,
But
was that okay, Corey? You can probably help me with this because whenever Grant Morrison took over X-Men, he made them
Yeah, Grant
wear
Morrison
like
gave
kind
him
of leather
more.
jackets and stuff. Now,
Yeah.
did he do that because the film was going to be more like that, or did he do that and then the film took inspiration from that?
I don't know which one came first, but I know
It was
Grant's
around the same
reasoning.
time.
Yeah, Grant's reasoning was that it was more of like trying to do something different with the X-Men. They were very like, I mean, that's just the Grant Morrison approach. They were handed something and they were like, well, what can I do to make this a little bit more different than what people are used to? Because that
Yeah.
was the idea that Grant sort of saw them as kind of like the mutant paramedics and rescue team kind of vibe.
Yeah.
Like they were showing up at the crises. But
Yes.
yeah,
so
um,
E for Extinction, which was the first sort of story arc he did, that came out in sort of July 2001. So
Oh,
it
uh,
was after.
yeah, after the movie.
okay. Well, he maybe the reason that he went with that kind of look was because he was trying to tie it into the films then.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a bit of inspiration taken there.
Yeah, I would imagine they probably had a little bit of like interaction between the two of them. Like, so I know that happens with some video games where like this is you can cut this bit out if you want. This is some inside baseball, but like for a game like Super Smash Brothers that comes out every so often, they always have a Pokemon character in it. And a lot of the time they have a Pokemon character that's from the newest generation. But a lot of that time, because games take a lot of time to develop, the Pokemon that gets introduced into Super Smash Brothers is like only shown to the game developers of Super Smash Brothers like way ahead of time, so that they can code them into the game. So it's possible that like um whenever they were coming up with the artwork for either the film or the comics or vice versa, they kind of showed each other their work and was like, "This is what we're planning. Maybe we can work together on this." Because I don't know how long it takes to make a film, but I also don't know how long it takes to write and draw
All right,
a
I have
series of
Grant's.
comics.
I have Grant's notes about their X-Men run. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Get rid of the costumes. Let's ditch the spandex for the new century and get our heroes into something that wouldn't make you look like a prick if you wore it in the street. The movie had it almost right. I think we should go for hardcore bike style exo rubber uniforms, maybe military pants and wrestling style boots. Whatever, a uniform again. Youth culture looks are going uniform anyway. The looks brutalist and military, and I think the X-Men should reflect that to stay on the cutting edge of cool. Long leather coats with a big X on the back as our heroes get smarter, prouder, and louder. Cyclops wearing ruby quartz contacts. I'd like to see some yellow and paneling or detailing on the costumes, if only to avoid the dull black leather look of every film superhero. But it should be pop art Dayglow yellow, the kind of cyclists and bikers were to be seen. Let's discuss a new look. X-Men is a soap opera about super people in the same way that Dallas was a soap opera about oil people. The oil only provided the window dressing and an excuse to look great. So that's
True.
Grant Morrison's notes on their manifesto and why they did what they did. So that was the
Okay.
notes that he gave, or they gave the either the editors or their artists.
Right. So when he said the film almost got it right, he knew that he had seen that and was drawing inspiration from that.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
So let's get the proper framing in place. The year's 2000. It's the new millennium, the Will-lennium, if you're a fan of Will Smith. And X-Men comes out with an interesting team lineup of primarily Wolverine, Jean Grey, Storm, and Cyclops. The big casting bits were, of course, Patrick Stewart as Charles Xavier, which looks perfect on paper. Ian McKellen as Magneto, and Hugh Jackman, who would you say that he was a relative unknown as Wolverine?
Pretty
Yeah.
much, yeah.
At the time.
Who did he replace again? It was a Scottish actor. I've forgotten the name of.
David Tennant.
Sean Connery.
Yes, it was Sean Connery.
Yeah. Can you
William
imagine?
Wallace.
Can you imagine Sean Connery's Wolverine?
Oh boy. So we also have James Marsden as Cyclops. You also have Halle Berry as Storm, and Famke Jensen. Is that the pronunciation as Jean Grey?
Yeah,
Sure.
that'll do me.
Yeah. So
She's not listening, so we can say whatever we want.
yeah, we can. So that movie also featured Anna Paquin as Rogue, and the premise of the movie is, of course, Magneto and wanting to liberate mutants from the evil governments.
Mhm.
Yes.
Almost
damn
forgot
governments.
we got the weird Rebecca Romaine Stamos nude Mystique, which
Yep.
will always confuse me. Why was she naked?
Why wouldn't you be naked?
I mean, I get it if you're a shapeshifter, but still, she's just walking around, just
Yeah, if you were a big blue shapeshifter, like why wouldn't you be a woman that's naked all the time? He's gonna stop you.
I mean, just seems like you get cold after a while.
True.
Now,
Yeah.
mind you, when she shapeshifts, it doesn't create clothing. It creates the illusion of clothing. So she's still very much exposed to the elements.
So she's still cold.
Yes.
Hmm.
That's an interesting point.
But you can never tell because she doesn't have nipples.
Let's not focus on the nipples too much.
No. So anyway, what I saw the X-Men movie in theaters, and I don't know. I X-Men, the X-Men movie to me was kind of like very similar to when I saw Man of Steel, where I walked away thinking I liked it, and then the more I thought about it and the more I talked about it, the less I liked it.
Okay.
That was just kind of it for me. What about you guys?
I liked it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought the casting was great and like the story was simple but kind of, got to the heart of the conflict between Professor X and Magneto.
Right.
Like, yeah. And obviously, like, you had Rogue as the sort of newcomer into the X-Men's world and sort of like our surrogate as well, like as the audience.
The audience
So,
avatar. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that with the X Men, you get the first view of what we can call, like, I guess, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, in that the film isn't, it's its own identity. It's not a one to one with the comics, but still close enough where you can be like, all right, I get this. So there was a lot of push on Wolverine as the
Yeah.
main guy. Cyclops, who historically in the comics was always kind of the leader, really took a back seat in the films. Rogue had a big part of it. But like John said, I feel like it did a really good job of just kind of establishing, like, you know, Xavier good, Magneto bad, and here are the two teams that represent those two guys, in a similar vein to the animated show, which is very much like Xavier good, Magneto bad. Here are the two teams that represent those sides.
I mean, it asks the hard questions like, can mutants coexist in a world where humans hate them? What is it like to be, you have the mutants of the various like powers that impact them positively and negatively. And I think most importantly, what happens when a toad gets struck by lightning.
Well, we all know what happens. We've all seen that, right?
It's such a terrible fucking line.
Yeah.
Well, that's that yeah. I don't, we have 14 movies to cover, so I don't know how much time you want to
Yeah.
spend on various ones. I
Well,
mean, this was the original. It was the first. It was the original.
it was fine.
Yeah, I think it captured the Wolverine character perfectly fine.
Yep.
Mhm.
I mean, but that's the thing, is you're gonna see a lot of Wolverine in all 14 of these movies that we're gonna be discussing for the most part.
I mean, you could say he's a very overrated character.
To tie in the last episode that we did, yes. There you
Ah,
go.
see what I
Well,
did
not the
there?
last episode, the episode that came out before the last episode.
Right before, yeah.
Unless we talked about how overrated Wolverine was in your WrestleMania
Oh,
conversation.
did we? I was already drunk, so maybe we did.
Uncle Dave gave him 5 stars.
Well, he gave Wolverine 7 stars because Wolverine went to Tokyo.
He did. He went to Japan.
Yeah, so we
So
give him 7 stars.
that's an instant +2.
Yeah, it's the rules. We can't argue
That's
with the
rules.
facts. It's in
That's the
Japan
rules.
at two extra stars.
All right, so X-Men was considered a pretty
Fine.
successful movie.
Mm-hmm.
So much so it warranted a sequel, X2. They didn't get really creative with the title on that one, and that one came out in 2003. I'm gonna have to get a reminder on what the plot was about. I just remember certain elements. Like I remember Iceman having a bigger role. I remember the introduction of the character Pyro.
Mm-hmm.
I remember Wolverine gets shot in the head, and then you see the bullet get pushed out of his skull as his healing factor, pops back in.
Yeah.
For that.
Good. You remember the key points.
I don't remember who the fucking villain is, to be frank.
I like how you remembered Wolverine getting shot in the head and Pyro, and like, good. This is all. That's all that happened.
That's all that was there. I can't remember anything else. So
So
you guys take it from there.
the villain was William Stryker,
Mm-hmm.
played by Brian Cox.
Oh.
And yeah, he was like a guy from Wolverine's past. I think in this, was he in charge of the Weapon X program?
Probably.
I think
can't
I think that's how they were playing it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, if it's a Wolverine centered plot, then you can absolutely guarantee that
Weapon
that
X.
there. All right, cool.
Yep.
I'm remembering some stuff now. We had Nightcrawler, we had Lady Deathstrike.
And I think his big plan was to use Professor X to use Cerebro to basically kill all mutants on Earth, because his son was a mutant and he had like a irrational hatred for them all or something like that.
Yeah,
Sure.
that sounds right. That sounds correct.
But spoiler alert, it didn't turn out well for him.
What? He didn't kill all the mutants?
Afraid not.
He killed some of the mutants.
This, I will tell you, the portrayal of Nightcrawler really. I get so angry when it comes to certain portrayals of Nightcrawler because I hate the fact that they were like, let's make him Catholic, and that just became his defining characteristic for a few years. And Alan Cumming was just kind of, again, this sort of, a lot of Catholic guilt and faith conversations. Whereas, like, I like the Nightcrawler that was a swashbuckler and kind of goofy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know what's funny about that is Alan Cumming could have easily done that character too.
Yes, it would. I feel like it would have been much more natural because he's a
He
very
would've-
charismatic individual.
Yep, he would have been a great like swashbuckling kind of like charismatic Nightcrawler. That totally like he had a lot of like angst and guilt, and like I really think if you're doing that in the X-Men films, Nightcrawler might not be the character to do that with. You can have a lighthearted Nightcrawler and then some really depressed, miserable other characters. You know, that works.
Yep.
Do you know who else was in this movie?
Damn
Lady
it.
Deathstrike.
Oh,
Yes.
Although I could forgive you if you didn't know that because she was basically mute and
Yeah, she had nothing resembling Lady Deathstrike.
yeah.
Nothing at all. She wasn't cybernetic. Nothing. She had a fucking brutal death, though. I remember that.
Yes.
Fuck, man. I just remember that very vividly.
she fall off the Empire State Building.
No, she got hit by a car. No,
Close
she got
enough.
injected. Like, she got stabbed with basically a glorified turkey baster full of liquid adamantium that filled her up.
Oh,
She got turned into a Boston cream donut.
tasty.
So, are you guys ready to move on from X2?
What did you guys think? So we all thought the first one was okay.
Yeah.
What do we think of the second one?
Step up in quality.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd say that they ironed out a lot of the wrinkles. That opening scene with Nightcrawler where he's like going through the White House was pretty fucking badass. Like, it
Mhm.
was a good illustration of his powers. Another weird critique, I hated how they made his like teleportation smoke black and not pink. It's like it's a weird thing to gripe about, but it's true.
Mhm.
But no, it was a good opening scene. But no, they ironed the wrinkles out, and I thought it was fine. I thought Magneto makes sense as a villain, like almost
Mhm.
always. But I
Right.
did like having a human villain for the most part, because I feel like
Yeah.
that's how you really hammer in the point of mutants and humans in the struggle between the two.
Well, it also
Yeah.
set up Magneto sort of working with Professor X as well, because sometimes they can put their differences aside for the betterment of mutant kind.
Is this the movie where yeah, because Magneto's in like a plastic prison and he gets out because Mystique injects a guard with like iron?
I think that's that one, isn't it?
Oh, is
I'm
it this
pretty
one?
sure.
Yeah,
Or is it the
yeah, I
third
think it
one?
was.
Because like here's a fun fact. I didn't really bother watching much of the third movie. So
Aw.
if I remember that scene, then it means it was in the second one.
Okay. So you missed the best part of the third film.
Was there a best
We'll-
part in the
Well, we'll
third
get
film?
to that one.
Yes,
So-
there was the best part of the third film, and I'm
Three-
very happy to bring that up when we get to it.
All right, so 3 years pass. It's year 2006. I'm officially graduated from high school, and X-Men: The Last Stand comes out. So this is the movie where the government has a mutant power nullifying drug that's like a cure.
Okay.
Of
Of course, it just has it. Here it is.
Yeah, exactly. So Dylan, I will let you get to your favorite part before I like start talking about the scenes that I know exist in this movie.
Okay. I will happily tell you about this. You said it came out in 2006.
2006 is X-Men: The Last Stand.
Okay. This is the one where Vinnie Jones in it.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
He's the
Wow.
Juggernaut.
Here's this is the thing that I remember the most about this film is I went to see this film in the cinema with my brother and my sister, and there's a bit where the Juggernaut is talking to somebody. I don't remember exactly who he's talking to. Vinnie Jones, of course, being the Juggernaut, and the Juggernaut says, "Don't you know who I am? I'm the Juggernaut, bitch." And I, for the first and only time in my life, stood up in the cinema and went, "He did it!" Right?
So this is where we show our age, where the Juggernaut bitch is like one of the old school fucking memes from
And
back in
I
the
and
2000s.
I turned to my brother and my sister. I'm like, "He did the thing from the internet."
You
And my
can leave
brother and my
now.
sister were like, "There's no way that they referenced that shitty internet thing." And I'm like, "They did. He's the Juggernaut, and he said, 'I'm the Juggernaut, bitch.' That's the joke. That's the only joke in that whole bit. He did the thing." So we had this argument in the cinema while the fucking film was going on, and that is absolutely far and away. And I will argue, try to find me a better part of the film. The best part of that film is when he said, "I'm the Juggernaut, bitch." So there you
So,
go.
all right. So the scene that you're referring to is the scene where he is chasing after Kitty Pryde, who is played
Right.
by
I thought it was.
Elliot
I thought it was
Page.
Shadowcat. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So it's played. Kitty Pryde is played by Elliot Page, and um, so Kitty's running through the walls using their power to walk through walls and shit. And Vinnie Jones as the Juggernaut is just like busting through the walls closely behind them. So yes, that was I was wondering who was going to be the first to bring up the "I'm the Juggernaut, bitch" line.
I don't think you had to wonder for that long.
So the other scenes that I remember from this movie, because I'm a big fan of Multiple Man. Multiple Man's in it. Um, he has
Yeah,
one line.
but
He has
like
one scene.
not
It's
really.
one scene. Yeah, it's one scene, but it's like when that's like your favorite mutant, it's like, hey, he's in it. Good job,
Listen,
bud. You made
dude,
it.
we're gonna get to that, but my favorite mutant too, so don't worry about it, man.
And the other scene I remember is when the news is on in the mansion, and they're talking about the X-Men cure, and like Rogue seems kind of psyched about it, and then Storm shuts her down, and it's just like, listen, one of you has the power to control nature and was worshipped as a goddess in Africa, and the other literally will kill anyone they touch.
Yes.
I think they're allowed to have separate reactions from you.
I feel like they could have fleshed that out a bit more too. Like
They
you're
really
right. Like there's a real lack of like empathy there, which is a shame whenever you're talking about the X-Men who work as a team and kind of understand each other. Like they should be not like open to having a mutant cure, but like a lot of them should be open to like understanding the other
why
person's
other
point of
people would
view.
be a little more excited about it.
Right. Exactly. Because the whole point of the X-Men is they're annoyed that the human race doesn't share their point of view. So
Yeah.
if you're angry at a mutant that doesn't share your point of view, you're the same. And
So
I don't think that was the angle they were going for.
no. So so John, by all means, go ahead and jump in. Because here's the thing: when we talk about movies, I'm always going to defer to John because I know that John has seen way more movies than me, and John probably remembers the details way better than I do.
Yeah.
So, John,
uh,
what do you remember of X-Men: The Last Stand?
well, this one was originally supposed to be directed by Brian Singer, who directed the first two movies, but he ended up dropping out. I'm not sure how far into production, but he dropped out to go and direct Superman Returns. And I believe the guy who was supposed to direct Superman Returns ended up taking over the X-Men Last Stand job, which was Brett Ratner, who isn't exactly a well received director, if we're being honest. Um, so yeah, like there was a lot of chaos kind of behind the scenes, which kind of transferred over into the movie itself. Like some of the guys who worked with Bryan Singer ended up going over to work on Superman Returns, which is why James Marsden isn't in this much, and Cyclops
Mm-hmm.
basically dies
Gets
after
killed
one
off.
scene, and yeah, you don't even get to see his death. You just see his like glasses floating around. So yeah, this wasn't like smooth sailing in terms of movie making, and it kind of comes across in the story as well, which I mean, it just wasn't great, to be fair. Like compared to the first two movies, it was a really disappointing take on the whole Dark Phoenix saga, with Jean Grey coming back from the dead after the second movie where she sacrificed her life to save the others, and all of a sudden she's evil, but like there's no sort of rhyme or reason to it. Like obviously they did like a big thing where the Phoenix was a cosmic force in the comics. Here it's just like an alternate personality basically.
Mm.
So yeah, I don't know, the whole thing felt quite lazy. But I will say Kelsey Grammer was great as
The Beast.
As Beast.
Yeah.
Yes, he was great. You know.
So here's a fun thing. Totally fucking forgot that Phoenix or Jean Grey sacrificed herself in X-Men 2.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Totally spaced on that.
She's the Phoenix, bitch. Gonna make our
So-
own catchphrases on this show.
Yeah, we're gonna start. We got to get that T-shirt store started soon.
We have to. By now we have to have like 100 catchphrases. What was the
Oh.
ones? What was the cement or?
Oh, Cement or
Marriage?
Marriage.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's got to be a T-shirt.
Yeah, we could.
I still think about that.
a cement block and a wedding ring.
Yeah,
On just on a plain T-shirt.
yeah. And people are like, I know what that means. If we get to the point where somebody knows what that means, we have succeeded as a show.
Yeah. So remember, if you've not been posting Cement or Marriage on Limp
Limp
Bizkit music
Bizkit
videos, do your fucking homework and get it done. So anyway, X-Men: The Last Stand came out in 2006, but jokes on us, it was not The Last Stand, because in 2009, oh man, Dylan, I know you'll be excited about this. X-Men Origins Wolverine comes out.
What were you saying about your favorite character in the X-Men not being represented properly on the big screen?
Yeah, you were a big fan of what was it, Extreme or John? What was the character that fucking Will.I.am played in this?
Oh, what the fuck? Oh no, what was his name?
He was like that teleporter guy.
What was he? No, oh, he was in the comics though. He was based on somebody in the comics, because that whole angle was supposed to be based on, like, as we've covered, the whole Weapon X angle, and there was like
Yes.
4 or 5 other guys in Weapon X with Wolverine. So Will.I.am is based on somebody in.
John Wraith.
Yeah.
Wraith.
Yeah.
apparently.
Anyway, so real quick, the premise behind X-Men Origins Wolverine is it's a prequel that is covering Wolverine's days with Weapon X. And it's a weird movie because I remember, like, you see a young Cyclops in it and a young Emma Frost, and like it's
The
so
Blob.
strange because, like, you think like, yeah, young Blob. Well, the young Rock was in it, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
But no, that was the movie. We had Deadpool as Ryan Reynolds, which on paper everybody was
Great
excited
casting.
for.
Yeah.
And then I remember when the movie came out and spoilers started coming out and pictures on the internet started getting posted, and I went, what?
Well, here's the thing about that film, right? Hopefully you guys understand this. The first 20 minutes of that film, really good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Corey, have you seen that film?
No.
Okay. The first 20 minutes or so, really good. Because you get them all as a team. You get to see Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool. And we could, by that point, we're all like, this is that. If you saw Hugh Jackman as Wolverine and thought that's Wolverine, by the time the first 20 minutes of this film comes out and you see Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool, you're like, that's perfect casting. Those two guys are the perfect people to play those characters. And the first 20 minutes is them like kind of doing like a heist or whatever, like the 4 of them. Wolverine, Deadpool, Will.I.am, and who's the 4th guy? Sabretooth?
Well,
I
so
don't
there's
remember.
more than that. There was okay. So you had Sabretooth, Wolverine, Deadpool, Silver Fox, John Wraith, the
Yeah.
Blob, some dude named Bradley, Agent Zero, who was Maverick.
Maverick, right? That's what I was
Yeah.
thinking of. But if you watch the first 20 minutes of it, you're like, this is gonna be a really good film. And then I to this day I have no idea. I'm kind of astounded at how well they were able to unravel that. The first 20 minutes are so good, and then the rest of the film is just not. It's just not good. Like the end of it just sucks ass. Like I and John, you're gonna agree with this. Corey, after not seeing it, you're gonna agree with this. Anybody listening to the show, you're gonna agree with this. The idea of taking a character like Deadpool, played by an actor like Ryan Reynolds, and coming up with the really clever idea to sew that character's mouth shut is the stupidest thing you could ever do. Right? We're all in agreement with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the stupidest thing, especially when you have 20 minutes at the beginning that shows you how good he is at that. And then they're like, no, we're going to sew his mouth shut. Fuck you. Like, that sucks. I know in story why they did it, because he's really irritating. But, like, have a resolution to that. Have him rip the stitches out. He's Deadpool. He's gonna crack wise. Like, do something with it, you know? You know what I mean? That whole film was such a disappointment. And that's what I mean. The first 20 minutes had such promise, and the next like fucking hour and a half or whatever sucked. And it's such a shame.
So Dylan, another thing that would probably upset you in this movie was the portrayal of Gambit.
Yes.
What did you feel about Gambit in this movie?
Not great. Because again, he was just like a guy. He just didn't do anything much. I didn't like the guy that played him. I didn't like the way he was portrayed. I just in an origin film like that, I understand why they would want to introduce a lot of characters to like Wolverine's origin, right? And it makes sense to have Gambit be a part of that too. I get that. I just didn't like, given the way they introduced a lot of those characters and then also Gambit, like you have no confidence with how they're going to play it out. And I didn't think they did a very good job with it. You know?
He basically added nothing to the movie,
Right.
having Gambit in there.
And what's funny is, like, if you look at the comics or if you look at the TV show, Gambit is a good foil to Wolverine because he is a lot more aloof than Wolverine. They play off each other very well. You didn't get any of that, and you could have.
So here's the fun thing. It's been widely known this movie was not great. So here's some stuff about it. Production and post-production were troubled with delays due to weather and Jackman's other commitments. An incomplete screenplay that was still being written in Los Angeles while principal photography was being done, conflicts between director Hood and Fox executives over the film's direction, and an unfinished work print being leaked on the internet a month before its debut. The film was criticized for its story, script, visual effects, pacing, and editing, but Jackman's performance was praised.
I think some of the visual effects near the end were pretty bad. Like the Deadpool stuff, like some of that looked really bad.
Jackson later expressed his unhappiness with the final product.
What did Ryan Reynolds have to say about it?
He couldn't say anything. His mouth was sewn shut.
That's a good joke. Put that on TikTok.
There you go. So, what I was gonna say was, like, we know how Ryan Reynolds felt about it because he made fun of it in the end credits for Deadpool 2.
Yeah.
So, John, what are your thoughts on X-Men Origins Wolverine?
Yeah, I'm in the exact same school of thought as Dylan, and yeah, it's disappointing. And like you can really see the timeline really sort of falling apart. Well, not even falling apart, like they just don't give a fuck anymore.
Yeah.
Like there's no sense of continuity really. Like with some of the random characters who end up showing up in here and like contradicting where they are in like the previous movies and stuff. And,
So
like,
you
how
get a
old they
young
are.
you get a young Cyclops in this, and then you get a young Cyclops in what, Days of Future Past or X-Men Apocalypse.
Mm-hmm.
How many fucking times are we going to see a young Cyclops?
We get a young Emma Frost in it as well, and then
Well,
she's
no. I read that. I read about that. Apparently, when confronted about that, if that was a young Emma Frost, the director said, "Oh no, it's not. It's not young Emma Frost. It's another character named Emma who has have similar powers."
Oh, Jesus wept.
Yeah, I saw that and I went, "What? What the fuck?" Yeah, no, that wasn't Wolverine. That was a character named Ricky who happened to also have knives that come out of his hands. Yeah, no, I would agree. The X-Men timeline is so fucking backwards. Because if you were to believe this, why the fuck didn't Cyclops in the first X-Men movie go, "Hey, that guy's also called Sabretooth"? So fucking weird. I remember being chased by a guy named Sabretooth when I was in school. Uh anyway, that was X-Men Origins, or X-Men Origins Wolverine. Let's go even further into the past to the swinging 60s for X-Men First Class in 2011. This movie was kind of the biggest departure of the X-Men movies because there was no returning cast for once because it was set so far in the past.
Mhm.
So instead of Patrick Stewart, you had James McAvoy as Xavier. Instead of Ian McKellen, you had Michael Fassbender as Magneto. You get a young Jennifer Lawrence pre some of her bigger successes as Mystique. And even more fucking around with the timeline, especially when you consider Xavier's weird childhood relationship with Mystique.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, yeah, I did see this one. We have another Emma Frost sighting, this time played by Mad Men alum January Jones. But our big villain is Kevin Bacon himself as Sebastian Shaw of the Hellfire Club.
Mm-hmm.
So, can I tell you my biggest? I enjoyed this movie. I had some gripes.
Yes.
First off, though, one of the best scenes I've ever seen in a superhero movie is the beginning scene of Magneto in Argentina with the Nazis.
Mm-hmm.
That fucking scene's amazing. That is very similar to a scene out of like Inglourious Bastards.
Yeah.
It was really, really well done. Counterpoint to that, the one character who is not a white kid named Darwin, whose whole mutant power is that he can survive anything, gets killed.
Well, I'm sure we were going to get to that, but my big bone of contention with that film was that exact point. I don't understand why they took a character called Darwin, whose entire character, his entire purpose in the comics was that he can adapt to any situation, is like the fucking guy that dies. Because I remember, again, in the cinema, watching that and going, what the fuck? Why is he the one that dies? His entire being would like survive that. There's no way he wouldn't survive that. That annoyed the hell. And what sucked about that is it was otherwise a really good film. I really enjoyed it. I thought Kevin Bacon was great. I thought the new rebooted cast were all really, really good at what they did.
Yeah.
The one sticking point I had was that they, for no reason, picked Darwin as the guy they were going to kill off. And you're like, what the fuck? You can't kill that guy.
That's his whole point, is you can't kill him.
He will adapt a way to not die.
And it's not even it's a subconscious thing that happens to him. He has no choice as to what happens. His body
Wasn't there like a bit in the comics where like one time he fought a guy that he knew he couldn't beat, so he just teleported away?
Yeah.
Because he just can't die, right? So I'm like, well, why did he do that?
I remember there was one thing that he was fighting a mutant who like could inflict, like basically light your nerve endings on fire, and he just turned himself into like a creature that had no nerve endings.
Right.
And like it's just stuff he can't control. It just happens.
Right. It's his mutant power. He doesn't activate it. It happens because it's part of him. So like, why couldn't they have just done that as an angle where whatever was going to happen to him, he teleported away to somewhere else, and they were like, we have no idea where he is. We have no idea how to get into contact with him. He
has no idea where he is because
right. He's just gone. We don't know where he is. That's devastating. But no, they were like, no, he's dead. After establishing what he could do and all his powers and stuff, like, no, he's dead. Fuck him. Like what that to me, that was the one low point of that film. Otherwise, I really really enjoyed it. I actually thought that was a really good X-Men film.
Hell
No, I
yeah.
enjoyed it as well. That also gave us Michael Fassbender in drag in one scene, which was interesting.
And we'll never forget it.
Nope. Anyway, John, what's up?
Yeah. I can't disagree with anything that's been said. It was a good way to kind of do something fresh and new with the X-Men line and putting them in like the 60s era as well, and having them stop a missile crisis of sorts was like a good nod to like the very first issue of X-Men, where that's basically what they do. They're like trying to stop Magneto, but here Magneto kind of helps them out. So, but yeah, it's I wasn't too keen on Sebastian Shaw as the villain. Like, I don't
Yeah.
think nothing against Kevin Bacon, but I don't think like the character really resembled Sebastian Shaw at all, and like
He wasn't dressed like a Regency character.
no, exactly.
Right.
Yeah, I get you.
But
I mean,
yeah,
I get that, but like, I feel like, if we're going for like an early
Yeah, you need a
character,
disposable villain. It doesn't need to be anything special.
but even if we're going for like an early Sebastian Shaw, like he could look like that, and then after this excursion with the X-Men, go
You know, he
okay.
gets a quarter through his head.
Well, okay, well,
That's a great scene though too, where Fassbender kills him and Xavier feels it because he takes over his mind while it happens.
mm,
That's a great scene. It's really well shot.
it's a fun film.
It's
It
yeah,
is.
there's a lot of really good parts in it.
Yeah.
I think some of the student characters weren't interesting
no.
because again, we're fucking
No.
around with the timeline. We're fucking around with the timeline where Havoc, who's Cyclops' little brother, is introduced, but like we see Cyclops in X-Men Origins, the Wolverine after this, because this is the 60s.
Mm,
We get a version of Banshee. We get a character named Angel who's got bug wings.
But that's Angel Salvatore, right?
Yeah, it's not Warren Worthington. It's a different
It's
Angel.
Angel from Grant Morrison's run.
Yeah, the one who
Which again
married
doesn't make
Pete
any sense timeline wise because she came after regular
way
Angel.
after. Yeah, way
Yeah,
after.
Yeah.
We get I think the best one, we get Nicholas Hoult as Beast. Nicholas Hoult did a great job.
Yes.
yeah.
Very good job. Yeah.
He's playing Lex Luthor now.
Yes.
Okay. Who's the better beast? Nicholas Hoult or Kelsey Grammer?
I mean, Kelsey Grammer all day long.
Yeah.
Oh,
I would
hello.
agree with that.
Hello.
I'd agree with that.
Nicholas Hoult was very good though as young beast.
He was good. He was definitely good, and he played Beast with the weird feet.
But do you think, are you guys picking that because Kelsey Grammer has that like sophistication that really suits
Absolutely.
the beast? You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like his pronunciation, his way
Exactly.
of being, this suits the beast more.
The
Yeah.
pomposity.
Yeah, but what if he became evil and then screwed over all of the X-Men, and then they had to kill him and clone him and replace him?
With Nicholas Hoult.
Yes.
There you go. We've written it.
What if that happened for like 6 years and then ended really abruptly?
Ended in 2 pages.
What if that happened? Just spitballing ideas, you know?
Yeah, just fucking around.
Coming up with stuff, but the beast, you know?
But no, that movie really I will say the one flaw I had with X-Men First Class, aside from the student characters being really uninteresting, is it kind of like as Jennifer Lawrence became a bigger deal in Hollywood, the Mystique role kept getting bigger and bigger and more important.
Mm-hmm.
And I just feel like she wasn't that great.
I kind of agree in that it did seem like the Mystique character got way bigger.
Yeah.
But it also felt like it contradicted the original trilogy as well, because there was zero connection whatsoever in those movies between Mystique
Xavier and
Professor
Mystique.
X. Yeah,
Yeah, I could buy a Mystique and Magneto because they established that like they built that relationship in this movie.
Yeah.
But like we're supposed to believe that Xavier has known Mystique since he was like 5 years old, and then as adults in the first X-Men movie, he just You know, hey, there's my childhood friend. Let me just not sell that at all.
I'm gonna beat
Yeah.
the shit out of her.
Patrick Stewart angrily wheelchairs over to her.
Yeah, bitch. I'm the professor, bitch. There you go. There's no
There
one.
we go. His stepbrother.
I'm the
So wait,
stepbrother,
wait.
bitch. We got so many.
Oh man, did we ever get was there ever a scene with Xavier and Juggernaut? I just want Vinnie Jones and
Mm,
Patrick Stewart interacting.
I
I don't
think
think so.
Professor X died before Juggernaut kind of came into it.
That selfish bastard.
Son of a bitch.
How could he? We had so much other stuff to do. You know? Oh
So
wow.
let's take a hop from 2011. We're gonna jump forward 2 years. It's 2013. Hugh Jackman's gonna get another shot at a solo Wolverine movie. This one just called The Wolverine.
Ooh.
Terrible fucking title. But
It's the Wolverine.
I saw this movie in theaters and I liked it because it covered one of the more interesting things about the Wolverine character, which was his time in Japan.
Yep.
I enjoyed the Wolverine in Japan movie.
Oh yeah.
I liked it. I liked it.
Yeah, we got to see the bone claws.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That was great.
Yeah.
So I can't even remember too much of the plot. I just remember like a lot of the fight sequences in Japan were fun.
Well,
And I
see,
remember him beating the shit out of that guy for poisoning that bear.
that's the problem I have is that I remember watching that film and I remember loving that film. I don't remember a fucking thing about that film.
Is that the version? Is that the version where we were talking in the last episode about you watching the Marvels on the airplane? We're like, it was fine. Like, is this was fine? Like, it was fine.
No,
I liked it watching it, but I don't remember anything.
Well, that's the funny thing about it. I feel like having watched it, I remember feeling more enjoyment watching that than I did with the Marvels. But I can, maybe it's a recent thing, because I have a terrible memory, and obviously the Marvels was closer to this Wolverine film that was at least 15 years old now. But
15.
when was it? When did it come out?
2013. It's been a decade.
2013. Okay, right. Well, my memory's not good.
Oh, you're fine.
But I remember. I just don't remember anything about that film, and I remember liking it. I remember really liking it, but like, I saw it once, and I remember just nothing about it.
Well, so the villain was Silver Samurai. That's what I remember.
I feel like that film is better than the Marvels. I just do not remember a goddamn thing about it.
I mean, I'm looking at the Rotten Tomatoes score, and I can tell you, yes, it was considered better than the Marvels.
Well, duh. People hated the Marvels.
John, do you have any thoughts on the Wolverine?
Yeah, I mean, it was sort of, there was an episode of the animated series where Wolverine goes off on his own to Japan, and this kind of reminded me of that. So I liked it. Was very different from everything that had come before it, and if you're going to focus on Wolverine, why not do something that's a bit different and
True.
and because like he's got all these different facets of his character as well, like going off to Japan or being part of like the sort of mercenary Weapon X team he was on, like going around doing secret missions and stuff. Like there's plenty of material you could work with there. So the fact that they did that and tapped into that Japanese side is pretty cool. But yeah, again, I I don't remember a whole lot about it either, to be fair. I
Well,
remember the end was he was fighting the Silver Samurai, but the Silver Samurai was basically wearing sort of like Iron Man armor.
yeah, he was a big like robot armor suit thing.
Yeah, which wasn't great, but
Well, he was an old man because that was like the red herring of it. So like you went into the whole movie thinking like the big bad was this like young rival guy that was also interested in the female love interest. And then like the bait and switch was like, nope, it was this old man that you were introduced to that was like hospitalized because he wanted like Wolverine's DNA because of the healing factor.
yeah.
Why the fuck am I suddenly remembering parts of this movie?
It's your favorite film.
Apparently, Jesus Christ. Oh boy. All right. Well, anything else about the Wolverine you guys want to talk about?
I don't remember nothing about it, so
There was a cut scene from the mid credits where I think Wolverine gets invited onto a plane and then he opens a little like briefcase and it shows like the Wolverine mask and costume, which would have been an awesome tease that was never paid off
Never went
until
anywhere.
this new Deadpool movie, which is coming out this year, where we're finally going to see Hugh Jackman in sort of the classic
uniform?
costume.
Yeah.
Can I tell you that was a thing in the early superhero movies where they would like I feel like they were making fun of fans because I remember when like Wolverine in the first X-Men movie was like wearing the leather jumpsuit thing and remarked about it and Cyclops just very dismissively went, "What do you expect? Yellow spandex?" And it's like, "Yeah, motherfucker, that's what they wear." I'm sorry, I want them to look identifiable.
Right, but also like, don't you want them? Like, isn't that part of the Grant Morrison thing where you're like, don't you want them at some point to like, kind of do something different?
Well, sure. I see. That's the thing. I feel like you're fine to do something different in the comic books, where X-Men have just been going on consistently for decades and decades and decades. This is the first time there's been a movie, though. Like at the
Right.
end of
So
the
they have one
day,
shot to like establish themselves.
yeah, but at the end of the day, like they didn't do anything radical with the Batman suit. They didn't do anything radical with the Superman suit or the Wonder Woman costume either. It's like
Well,
identifiable. They didn't fuck around with the Spider-Man costume.
they but the thing about Batman, if you look at the different Batman films, the suits are different. And the same as
Slightly, they're
Spider-Man.
variations though.
Spider-Man is a different suit than in the comics.
They didn't just put Spider-Man in a silver body suit and go like, "What'd you expect, red and blue?"
Can I just say, if in the Spider-Man film they had dressed him up as a Scarlet Spider and said, "What did you expect, spandex?" I would have fucking loved it.
You would have loved him in the hoodie and the little ankle pouches.
Yes, yes,
The
I would have
ankle pouches
loved
always
it.
confused me.
What?
The ankle pouches always confused me.
Dude, the Scarlet Spider costume was cool as shit.
I like the Scarlet Spider costume. The most recent Scarlet Spider run they did with Peter David, they tried to put him in a new costume, and the fan backlash to it was so strong, they put him right back in the old costume.
Wait, was the new Scarlet Spider, is that Keane?
No. This was after Kane.
So is this back to Ben Reilly?
Yeah, it was. There was another series where Ben Reilly was Scarlet Spider.
But is this before Ben Reilly went crazy?
It was before Ben Reilly went crazy.
So
the
why
timeline is Ben Reilly's the Jackal?
Yes.
And while he's the Jackal, Kane is Scarlet Spider.
Yes.
I don't remember what happened to Kane, but then Ben Reilly came back and was Scarlet Spider again.
Kane died.
Kane died. Okay.
Kane was sacrificed.
Ben came back as Scarlet Spider.
Yes.
And then he was told in that story, like, you have died and resurrected so many times now. The next time you die, you're gonna lose your soul.
What?
So, yeah. It was the thing. It was like a Madam Web thing, I'm sure. No, it was Death. Death visited him and told him that basically, like, because he's a clone, his soul is like not legitimate. Anyway. This as we divert from X-Men long enough to talk about the greatest Spider-Man character of all time, Ben Reilly.
Whoa. You say that. I think you've said that in jest.
I like Ben Reilly.
I love Ben Reilly. I don't like what they've done with him recently. That's another. I'm writing that down. Ben Reilly. I'm writing that down.
Yeah, I like Ben Reilly is my favorite Spider-Man.
I mean, I'm not arguing with you. I think he's really good.
Yeah, we're agreeing. We're just agreeing aggressively and passionately.
To be fair, I do agree with people very aggressively. So
yeah,
don't worry.
You're
about
right,
it.
motherfucker. Anyway.
Fuck you. You're correct, and I agree with you.
So he's Scarlet Spider again, and then whatever I can't remember what the lead-up was. Well, yeah, no, he was Scarlet Spider again, and then whatever happened, he became like a brand new Spider-Man again. That was like Spider-Man working for a company. And then like all of his shit got wrecked and ruined and he became Chasm.
I mean, this is kind of where I fell off with Spider-Man, and I hate this. It all sounds terrible, and I'm really annoyed about it. So there you go.
Yeah, it's
Anyway.
honestly that Peter David Scarlet Spider ended on such a bummer because it was just like, oh, you know, you died and you got resurrected. Now you're just evil.
Yeah,
That was how the series ended.
It sounds like a real like not good way to resurrect that stuff, you know?
Yeah.
Because people love Ben Reilly. Like, why would you make him a villain? Why would you turn him heel? Doesn't make any sense. Why would you turn LA Knight heel right now? He's hot. Don't do it.
Are they turning LA Knight heel?
I don't know.
Oh, you missed your chance.
Yeah?
There it is. Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Whose game is it?
I don't know whose game is it.
Yeah,
Ben
it's
Reilly's.
LA Knight's game. Yeah.
There you go.
Thank you.
Anyway, let's John, any more thoughts on the Wolverine? Because we spent more time talking about Scarlet Spider.
And LA
Yeah.
Knight.
I forgot even more about this movie now.
Did you like it?
Yeah.
Yeah, did you like it?
I did.
Yeah.
It felt like, yeah, like I said, it was like a new take for a Wolverine movie, but yeah, completely unmemorable.
John, what did you rate this on Letterboxd?
So John, did you find your letterbox score on the Wolverine?
John, have you got Letterboxd scores for all of these X-Men films, by the way?
Yeah, I should do. But
So
yeah,
can we go through them all?
Well, I'm gonna have to do some digging to get them all out.
Can we open up 17 tabs? we should have made this. We should have said right off the bat, because John's a big film guy, right?
Yes.
We know this from the history of the show. I mean, this is on us. This is on me and Corey. We probably should have said beforehand, John, can you get your Letterboxd scores up for these films that we are definitely going to talk about today in our show about X-Men films? That was on us, right?
That's our failed
That was
initiative
our
on
bad. That was a big mistake on our part.
Well,
I only thought about that like 5 minutes ago. So like, that's on us.
We can talk about it at the end.
Yeah,
That's a good idea.
We'll talk about the box office earnings and we'll talk about the Rotten Tomatoes and we'll see how John matched up with Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh yeah, well yes, perfect. Rotten Tomatoes versus John. That's the show.
There it is.
Rotten
There you
Tomatoes
go.
versus John. That's the T-shirt.
Yeah, there it is. So let's jump forward 1 year to the year 2014, where we go back to the Fassbender McAvoy era mutants, and we go X-Men Days of Future Past. That's a huge storyline in the comics. That's one of those definitive X-Men stories where we basically get Sentinels, and we get Boulevard Trask played by Peter Dinklage, which is interesting. And it involves,
I love that. I
was a
love
choice.
that. Yes, but a great choice. Because I remember being. Well, here's the thing. I remember being. I'm sorry to cut you off, Corey.
But
for the record, let me say this: I've never seen Game of Thrones. I want to put that out there right now. And I went to the cinema to see this film with a lot of people who have seen Game of Thrones. And whenever Peter Dinklage came on screen, people who I was with started to point at the screen and say, "That's the Dink," and I'm like,
Dwight the Clown sidekick,
and I'm like, I don't know what that means. But they some of them said that's the Dink, and then some of them said that's whatever his Game of Thrones name is. What's his Game of Thrones name?
Tyrion.
Tyrion. They're like, it's Tyrion. Tyrion. And they were high fiving. I'm like, I don't know what are you talking about? I had no idea what any of that shit mean. You know, I'm not a Game of Thrones guy. I don't like that kind of stuff. But they loved it. So obviously it was good casting if you want to get the casuals in. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So this movie involved Hugh Jackman's Wolverine getting sent back through time to the 1960s to basically stop a dystopian future from happening, in which we get our interactions with him and the McAvoy and Fassbender era crew. I saw this one in a theater in 2014, so that's a decade old now, and I walked away feeling kind of about the whole thing.
Really?
Okay.
Yeah,
Interesting.
didn't do much for me.
I feel like me and John might have a very different opinion.
Yeah. I loved this movie. I thought
Fucking hated it. No, I'm joking.
No, it's like a really good mesh between like the original trilogy and what they were, building with the sort of, new version of these
Yes.
characters. And it was a good sort of play on the Days of Future Past storyline as well from the comics. Obviously not like a direct adaptation again, but like we've talked about this before in other podcasts where it's movie, it's just like cinema. It's a completely different medium, so of
Yeah.
course it's not going to be exactly the same.
I agree. I felt like this was a really good way to bridge the gap between the newer, um, chronologically newer X Men and in timeline wise the older X Men because they were trying to do both.
Hmm.
Like and I think this is a good way to like show them both together. I thought that was a really good way. And again, using Wolverine as a guy, it makes sense because Wolverine's the most popular, arguably overrated X Man. So it really kind of made sense to see them kind of like um interact with each other. I thought this was a really good film. I did. I really liked it. I thought it was a good mix of like both new and old X Men if they're going for that angle. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me
Yeah, no,
talk to you.
I mean, it just didn't really make that much of an impact on me. I mean, there's certain actors that I like and I could watch pretty much in anything, which is like Fassbender is one of them. Um, but yeah, no,
Is Hugh
I was just
Jackman not one of those guys?
I prefer him as a song and dance man personally. Have you ever seen his Broadway
No, I
show?
would prefer him as evil fucking Claw Boy. I am fed up of him being a song and dance man. I want to see him rip a guy's throat out and then eat the heart of the man. That's what I want.
There you go.
Yeah. Hugh
Yeah,
Jackman, if you're listening, that's all I want you to do. Don't even in the film. Just do it in the street and I'll watch that and I'll put it on YouTube. That's all I want. I
do you have
assume Hugh
any?
Jackman is listening to the show.
One would hope.
Yeah.
Do you
I
have
would hope.
any closing thoughts on Days of Future Past?
I liked it.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think this was the high point of the entire series for me.
I will tell you, looking at the numbers that I see, you're not incorrect.
Hello.
So we're gonna jump forward 2 years to 2016, where we get the movie that I feel like some people have been waiting for their entire lives. We get Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool.
Yes.
And Deadpool was great because it was an X-Men movie that played around with the idea of it being in the same continuity and played around with it not. It
Yes.
had a comic realistic Deadpool costume. The
Mhm.
jokes were there. It felt right. It was the right mesh of profane and violent and silly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like if we're going to go with Deadpool as an X-Men film and we're going to go under the pretense of the films getting their characters correct, it's hard to find a better film than Deadpool because Deadpool got that character down perfectly. I mean, that's Deadpool. That's it. They did it. I
It's
remember
very much
talking.
Ryan Reynolds as well, though. Like
Oh
the
yeah,
two are basically the exact same people.
very
I
similar.
mean, and again, all of this comes back to a comic from the late 90s, early 2000s, in which Deadpool was asked what he looked like under the mask, and he said he looked like Ryan Reynolds mixed with a Sharpay. And that's
Correct.
what somebody alerted Ryan Reynolds to that back then, and he saw it and loved it, and that became his goal ever since, was to be Deadpool.
Well,
And
he's
he
not
came
wrong.
close in X-Men Origins Wolverine. He got cast as
Mhm.
Deadpool, but
He tried his best, but
wasn't
also
quite there.
he knew that after that he's like, we didn't do the character justice. We can do better than that.
Yep.
And then they did. Like he had a big hand in that whole film, not just making the film, but also like getting that film made.
Yeah.
Like he had a big hand in. I think it was the first scene in that film that accidentally got leaked onto the internet. Wink, wink.
Yeah.
That got people to see it and go, "That's fucking awesome."
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
And that's how
The
that
action
film got made.
sequences are amazing in it. They're a
Yeah,
lot of fun.
it's so much fun. But also like just all the way through it, it's just a fun film to watch. Right?
Yes.
Just all the way through, like wall to wall. Like it's you just have fun watching it. And that's all you want from a film, right? Like really,
Yeah.
we
You
can
watch to be
split
entertained
hairs and shit.
sometimes.
Yeah, we can like just you can say about a film like, oh, I want it to be emotional, I want it to be this, I want it to be that. Really, you just want to have a good time watching the film, and I think we all three of us can agree. Deadpool, we had a great time watching that film.
Yeah.
That's
Indeed.
the long and short of it is we had a fun time watching that film. That's it. You know what I mean? It's not the smart. It's not Citizen Kane, but who gives a shit? It's fun. You know?
So John, what are your thoughts?
He's gonna say the same thing. He's gonna say it's not Citizen Kane, but it's fun.
Yeah, it's not Citizen Kane, but it is fun.
It's Citizen Kane.
It's not Citizen Kane.
Orson Welles is there.
There's no
There's that really
rosebud.
intense
There's
scene
no
where his wife is singing
newspaper.
really terribly, and he's just clapping really intensely.
Can I just say, by the way,
Fucking
don't
killer.
make fun of Citizen Kane. It's a really good film.
No, it's great.
Yeah.
No one should ever make
Great
fun of
film.
Citizen Kane.
It's a great film. It's no
Um,
Deadpool though.
But yeah, like this was the first movie in the series, I believe, which got the R rating. So they were allowed to do a lot more with it in terms of the violence and the swearing and just like cranking it up to a degree which we hadn't seen in the previous movies, and which obviously sort of leaned into Ryan Reynolds' like sensibilities as well. And yeah, like it's just a funny movie, and
Yep.
you know,
What I liked about it was they knew that they couldn't use a whole lot of the X-Men license.
mm-hmm.
So they got around that by using people who weren't in the X-Men, including Negasonic Teenage Warhead, who in the comics was dead. But they thought,
Yes.
we'll just use this as a character. And she was so popular in the films that they brought her back as a character in the comics.
Yeah, and they also her banter with Deadpool was great. They also brought in
Yes.
Colossus as sort of like the angel on the
Yes.
shoulder kind of character.
Which, whenever you see Colossus in that film, you're like, why didn't they bring Colossus in fucking years ago?
Well, he was, but like it was such a minor role. Like I don't even
Right.
think the character spoke. Like he was in X2 and X3 and in Days of
Yeah.
Future Past.
But he's such a good character with Deadpool. Like the
Yeah.
banter between the two, like the deadpan of one of them and the off the wall antics of the other one. It's a perfect meeting. And also like the same with Negasonic Teenage Warhead, where they're two opposite characters, but they work perfectly with each other.
So that kind
You
of
know?
goes back to the whole theory on foils, in that like you need, like that's where you like conflict creates content. I will say that all the time. And so you have those exact opposites where you have Colossus, who is a very portrayed as very sensible and responsible and good-hearted individual, talking to Deadpool, who is a degenerate for all intents and purposes.
Yes.
And then you have, Negasonic Teenage Warhead, who is uptight and angry and aggressive against a very, again, bit of a nonsensical dickhead character. So,
Yes.
they bounced off of each other incredibly well. And you get the great joke of where they're wandering the X-Men mansion and Deadpool just kind of breaks the fourth wall and talks about how, ooh, wow, nobody's here, huh?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that.
I will say the villain was kind of weak. It's green as Ajax.
Yeah.
Like
I don't know, man. I think that like if you look, if you know Deadpool lore, like that makes sense.
no,
Well,
I'm
will
not
go.
knocking them as a villain choice, but like I didn't think Ed Screen sort of popped on screen really for this.
Right. It was an interesting choice for that character.
Yeah.
Well, again, I feel that if it's going to be the first movie, you don't need a dynamic villain because you're trying to establish your main character. Like that sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. So for example, Tim Burton's Batman, I feel like Michael Keaton's Batman suffers a little bit because he's against such a force of nature that is Jack Nicholson just going fucking all in on playing the Joker.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Sometimes I feel like if you're starting a movie out, you don't necessarily need to have a super dynamic villain if you're trying to establish something it's going to be a series.
But then also like we said earlier in the show, if you think back to the original X-Men, the very first one, the first villain was Magneto. He was a very charismatic person. Like, you know, he was Amy Conn played a very good Magneto. Like,
Well,
you
so
you
I
already
will
had a
counter
very
that.
like not bombastic, but like a very charismatic kind of character that had he knew what he was doing.
Mm.
Yes, but he's
And
not. He was very reserved though. Like as you say, he's not bombastic. He's not eating the scenery like Jack Nicholson's Joker would. Plus, the X-Men movies, for all intents and purposes, despite the fact that it was a Wolverine very much driven story, it is a team movie, and you kind of go in knowing you're gonna have to juggle some characters around to begin with, whereas Deadpool is a solo movie.
okay, so would you say Ed Skrein was like eating the scenery more than Ian McKellen?
No, no, that's what I'm saying. Like I think he was a weak villain, but I don't think it hurt anything to have a weak villain because I think
Okay,
the whole point was like you're gonna just let Deadpool be Deadpool, and you get a this whole movie to get introduced to here's this character who gets brutally injured, but he's fine, and he breaks the fourth wall because he's kind of crazy.
right. Like, see, for me, like I didn't hate that villain because I think that they did a very good job of showing the stakes.
Yes,
I think they did a really good job of showing why Deadpool would have an issue with that guy
yeah,
Mm.
and him getting his comeuppance. I think like all of that worked really like as a film. In a film, you have an hour and a half, 2 hours to like tell a good story. I think they told that story. They were able to tell that story plus the story of Deadpool and his girlfriend, plus the story of Deadpool just being weird, plus the story of Deadpool interacting with the other X-Men. They told all of those parts very,
very
very
well.
well in that time frame that they had. That's what I think.
So we should probably jump ahead into another movie that came out in 2016. I did not see this one. This is X-Men Apocalypse. We're again back with the Fassbender and McAvoy X movies.
Yes,
Oscar Isaac plays Apocalypse, which is
he does.
insane to think about now.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
But I couldn't tell you anything about it because I didn't see it because I saw trailers for it and I went, oh, this looks this feels familiar to seeing the other X-Men movie trailers from back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, take it from here, guys.
I really want to know what John's opinion on this is because I have an opinion on this film, and I would like to hear what John's opinion is first.
Well, I really wanted to like this movie. I really did. Apocalypse is like a great character, one of my favorite villains from the animated series.
Mm-hmm.
He was awesome, and Oscar Isaac is a hell of an actor as well. It felt like, it was a perfect fit, but yeah, the end result didn't really turn out that way. I wouldn't say it's horrendously bad. Like a lot of people seem to have this opinion as this is like a total shitting of the bed, but uh, honestly, it's just fine. There's nothing horrendous, but there's nothing that I'd really say is great about it. And yeah, I don't know. It's a
Okay.
weird one.
You know what? I am on the pretty much the same page as you because I liked this film. I didn't love it. I liked it. I love Apocalypse as a villain. I think he's great. And to be fair, I think they did a very good job of showing Apocalypse as a big deal in this
Mm,
film. I do think they did a very good job of establishing him as like a villain. But I do kind of agree with you in that it's not perfect. There's a lot of like issues with that, especially with like Magneto, right?
mm.
Like let's be honest, if you're picking four horsemen of the apocalypse, I don't know if you'd pick up Magneto. The way they did it
Well, I don't
was
think Magneto would go with Apocalypse
no,
either.
no. I
No,
don't think no exactly. I don't think that will work.
doesn't make
But
sense for the character.
no, it doesn't. Um, but I did like that film, and I wanted to like it more because I love Apocalypse. I think he's one of my favorite villains. But I like that film more than other people do because my brother saw that and he fucking hated it, and I'm like, I don't hate it. I do not hate that film. I think it's more fun than some other X-Men films,
Mm.
but also it's not clearly it's not the best film. You know what I mean? It's it's good. It's okay to good if we're charting it that way. You know,
Yeah.
but it's not good to great.
So let's try to pick up the pace a little bit on these because we've been recording a good bit now. And we got some more stuff to go, including I'm really curious what John's Letterboxd scores on these are going to be. We're going to jump ahead 1 year to the year 2017, and this is a movie that looked like it'd be really good. Didn't see it. Logan.
I liked it.
This was
Yep.
the depiction of old man Logan, essentially.
I liked it for the most part. I feel like again there was some part. Whenever you remember, the problem I always have with going into these Marvel films, I'm very familiar with the comics, and then you go into them and you have to remember that the films aren't the comics; they're different. And if you remember that, then Logan's a pretty good film. They do take some twists and turns. It's a bit different, but it kind of makes sense all together. I feel like a lot of the solo Wolverine films have been really good, to be totally fair. Because I feel like they knew that Wolverine was their big guy. They had to do something good with him. And I feel like they did. I quite like this film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say I'd go even further than that and say this is probably the best solo Logan movie, or
Yeah,
Wolverine
probably.
movie. Yeah, like they did a good job of sort of tapping into like this older version of the character where he's outlived all of his X-Men team and now he's sort of broken down and both physically and mentally. Um, and then yeah, along comes X-23, and like that's the little spark of humanity that kind of keeps him going for a bit as well. Like the only real disappointment for me was like they hired Richard E. Grant, and what a perfect Mr. Sinister he would have been. Like he would have
Yes.
been great in that role, and instead
Oh
he's
my
just
god, yes.
some random scientist who has no real like personality or defining features or anything.
Can I say that is honestly Richard E. Grant is one of the fucking best ever. And I feel like he gets
The
when he gets
best
into the big
ever?
yeah, I think so.
What?
I feel like he gets put into the weirdest roles when he gets put into these giant like franchises. Like his role in the last Star Wars movie that came out felt really like it was tacked on at the very end
Mm,
for the most
yeah,
part.
yeah,
I think he was like classic Loki in
yeah.
the Loki show, and I feel like that was probably his best portrayal that he's done in one of these like larger franchise things. That man made Hudson Hawk somewhat enjoyable.
Hudson Hawk.
You never heard of Hudson Hawk?
I've heard of it.
You should watch it.
I don't
It's
think I
amazingly
will.
bad.
I'm
Yeah,
going to
I wouldn't
watch.
recommend it.
It's
I'm going to watch
amazingly bad.
X-Men
You
Origins
guys have
instead.
to. You got to watch bad movies sometime. It's always fun every now and then. You find a really good bad movie, and you just get a different sense of enjoyment from it. I love bad movies, though. To be totally honest with you, it just whenever it's like when it's if it's a big budget bad movie, it's nowhere near as much fun as a low budget bad movie.
Oh yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, I
Because you
agree
can
with
see like
that.
there's some heart in it, in a
Yes.
low budget bad movie. There's some heart.
Yes. I agree with that. I feel
And then
like
like you get to some of these X-Men movies and you're just like, no, they just
they're just bad.
disorganized and
Yeah.
just not well done because they didn't care.
Right. I get that, man. There's something sweet about a really bad like independent film because like they tried their best. And there's something like really endearing about that. You know what I mean?
So any other remarks on Logan?
I remember loving it. I remember I remember it being in the cinema and thinking that's the best solo Wolverine film.
Hmm. And it was like a good, like, I wouldn't even say exclamation point, but like full stop on the character as well. That felt
Yes.
like a good sort of definitive and earned ending, and
Yes.
like a good way for like Hugh Jackman to sign out as the character.
Yes. I agree. If you were gonna, if Hugh Jackman was gonna, because by that point, what's he been doing? Like 7, 8, 9 films. If you want to stop being Wolverine, that's the best way to do it. To kind of like bow out and go, all right, it's a good way to do it. You know.
Yeah.
It's 2018 now, and Deadpool 2 has come out. This is the sequel, very much a sequel in that it carried the same tone and the same sense of humor. But we get the added bonus of Josh Brolin as Cable, who I enjoyed him as Cable way more than I did as Thanos.
Ooh, that's divisive.
It
You've
is, but I'm
you've
more of a
split
Cable
the
person in
room.
general.
You've split the room.
I'm much more of a Cable person, and I never really cared for Thanos as a character.
Right, but if you think about that, you have to split the two. You have to remember that the cinema universe is different from the comic universe. The way that he played Thanos was very good. I loved him as Cable, but the way he played him as Thanos was very, very good.
Yeah, just
very different characters, very, very different.
Just didn't care for it.
Okay, but I feel like you're taking your own bias from not liking Thanos and carrying that over to the cinema.
Deadpool 2, we've got a plot that involves time travel and a grieving Deadpool, and the Juggernaut shows up for the second time in our X-Men watch.
Mm-hmm.
Fun fact, do you know who does the voice of the Juggernaut?
No, who did the voice of Juggernaut?
John, do you know who does the voice of Juggernaut?
Was it Ryan Reynolds?
It was Ryan Reynolds.
No kidding. That's fun.
So I liked this film. I thought that Deadpool 1 was a better film.
Yes.
Frankly.
Yeah,
but
I would agree.
I did enjoy this film. I thought that like it was nice seeing Cable on film.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I liked the idea of I like the kid. I don't remember the name of the kid. John, you could probably tell me what the name of the kid was in character and also the person because he's the same kid that was in that
Hunt
Taco
for
80
the
film.
Water People.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's really good. He's really good in that film.
Yeah.
But I don't remember his name. He was really good in Deadpool too.
Yeah.
But you know, like I like that film. I thought it was an interesting choice to make it about that. You know what I mean? And I like the rest of the film. I love the idea of him like making his own squad of people that all die.
Oh, X-Force.
Yeah. Like I love that shit. Like that was so much fun. Like fucking Invisible Guy that was Brad Pitt.
Vanisher.
And what was the guy with like Peter that was
Rob
just a
Delaney.
dude.
Rob Delaney? Yeah, Rob Delaney. Yeah. Was it Peter?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's just a guy.
Yeah, just a regular. Yeah, just like I loved all of that shit. Like that was so much fun to watch. But I felt like when it came to the end of it, you're like, I don't know if this is quite the conclusion I expected. But at the same time, I did like that film. I did like it.
Can I say that what I enjoyed about the ending was like all of that talk of like you can't go into the past and change the future or whatever. And like, you know, like sometimes you just have to accept things and move on, and it just ends with fucking Deadpool doing all that shit anyway.
Yeah.
Remember we get the montage of him shooting the X-Men Wolverine, the X-Men Origins Wolverine Deadpool, and then he shoots Ryan Reynolds as he's reading a script for Green Lantern.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It wasn't as good as Deadpool 1, but it was still good. And
I agree.
That one of my favorite scenes is once he gets ripped in half and he's regrowing his lower body, where he gets up pantsless with little tiny baby legs, walking across the room to shake hands with Cable. That's the perfect Cable and Deadpool relationship right there. Because Cable is like absolute no nonsense, no sense of humor whatsoever.
Yep.
And then there's Deadpool with his little baby legs walking across the room awkwardly.
Right, that's that dynamic we were talking about earlier, like the fun kind of the wacky off the wall Deadpool and then the serious no nonsense other side. Like you need that dynamic. It really works together.
Also,
I feel like,
Domino was great in it too. I can't remember the name of the actress, but
yes,
really
Domino was great in that. Yeah,
great illustration of her powers too.
Yes, and that actress was really good.
Yeah, she's great.
She was really, really good. Like she nailed it. You know.
So I'm gonna let you guys know it goes downhill from here.
What? Isn't this the last X-Men film?
Nope.
I think.
Remember, I told you there were some that I forgot existed.
I thought it ended at Deadpool 2, and then we all had a great time, and we toasted the fact that the Deadpool was a great film. We
Nope.
went home and ate a
Nope.
cake.
So it's the year 2019,
What?
pre-pandemic.
What?
Dark Phoenix.
No, it wasn't this pandemic.
Pre-pandemic.
Okay, sorry.
No, the next one's pandemic. This
What?
one is Dark Phoenix.
Okay.
I didn't know this was a movie that came out. I'll be
Uh-huh.
honest with you. This completely was not on my radar whatsoever.
Well, there wasn't much to it, so it's not as
Right.
if you missed much.
Like, I'm trying to think. I'm like, I'm sure I've seen this film, but I don't remember a fucking thing about it.
So they're redoing the Dark Phoenix storyline, as you could probably guess by the name of it. But
One would assume.
they sort of kick it off with like an homage to the animated series where the X-Men go up into space and help save like a space shuttle mission, and then that's where Jean gets like the Phoenix. I don't think it's like a cosmic being sort of taking control of her. I think it's more of like a split personality type thing. But then, yeah, the rest of the movie is them trying to stop Jean from turning to the dark side. And I think what's her name? Jessica Chastain shows up as like in the trailers. It was really kind of played up as like, oh, who's this mysterious character? Like, who is she from the comics? And it turns out, well, she's not really anyone. She's just
I'm
like
looking at this.
a random member of some alien race, which like is pretty obscure in terms of like the big alien races we've got in the Marvel comics. So
Huh.
yeah, I don't know. It's sort of a waste of time.
Fun fact, Chris Claremont had a cameo in this.
Really?
Is he Wolverine?
No, he was a guest in the White House during a scene in which Xavier accepts his award for rescuing the crew of the Space Shuttle Endeavour. They
Well,
just,
that's nice.
just chucked him in there.
Why not?
Yeah. Yep.
Yep.
This was a movie that came out. I'm just like scrolling through the Wikipedia page.
So here's the thing. Earlier, I was talking about how you were saying like, what's the difference between like Miss Marvels and like some other film? And I'm like, well, this one was more recent, so this is the best one I can remember. I don't remember a dick about this film. I, honest to God, and I know I've seen it. I have to have seen it in the cinema. I just do not remember fucking anything about this film.
Well, don't worry. Again, I'm looking at some of the details. You're not the only one who didn't remember this movie.
Did somebody leave a rating on the film that was like 0 out of 10? I don't remember anything about this film.
We just walked out of the theater. Can't recall.
They walked out?
Thing.
Oh, they walked out. Oh, okay. I thought they meant they walked out like after like the first fucking 5 minutes or whatever.
All right. Well, here's an interesting. So we're gonna go up next. This is the year 2020.
What?
So here, the X-Men movies have been pretty consistent in that like very quick turnaround. 2000, 2003, 2003, 2006, 2006, 2009, etc., etc. So we go to the year 2020, and this is a movie that was shelved for such a long fucking time that eventually they just had to put it out, and they said, fuck it, it's a COVID pandemic, throw it out there. And that is the year 2020's The New Mutants, which I remember being billed as kind of a horror movie kind of deal.
Yeah.
And whenever I see like, oh, this movie's been shelved, I'm like, oh, that's probably a sign of this isn't going to be good.
So you saw it?
No, I did not.
Oh, you didn't see it?
No.
Okay. Well, here's a fun fact. I also didn't see it. So, John, over to you.
Yeah.
John, did you see it?
John, did you see it?
Of course I saw it, yeah.
Did you like it?
I mean, I didn't hate it, but like is probably too strong a word. But
is this rated on your Letterboxd page?
It is.
Okay, cool. Good.
We'll get to that.
Good.
What
was the best and worst part?
Well, the best part was it did have sort of a horror slant to it. So That made it feel completely different to everything else that has come before it in terms of the X-Men movies. But yeah, it was a bit boring, and like the writing isn't that good as well. Like it just felt like the relationships between some of the characters weren't fully formed. And yeah, and then it sort of descends into the Demon Bear saga from
A very important saga.
It's
from
it's actually it's a
comics.
really big thing for New Mutants.
But I'm not sure
Well,
it translated well on screen, to be
Is
fair.
Karma one of the mutants?
I don't think
Yes.
she's listed. Is she?
Oh no,
Yes.
sorry, no, it wasn't Karma.
It's
It was
Wolfsbane, Magic, Cannonball,
and
Danny
Mirage.
Moodstar, and
Yes.
Sunspot.
Isn't Karma one of the? Am I
Yes.
getting that wrong?
No,
Is it-
Karma's one of the OGs, but Karma is such a forgettable character, even in the comics. I don't blame him for not including her.
But is it Karma or is it Danny Musar that has a thing with a demon bear?
That Danny Moonstar.
Okay, that was my mistake then. I got the two confused.
So, John, this is a horror movie. We got the demon bear. We've got our
Anya
new mutant
Taylor
characters.
Joy as Ilyana Rasputin, and she's great. The rest of the cast, not so much. Maisie Williams is Wolfsbane, but I think she sort of struggles a bit with the Scottish accent, and it can be a bit distracting at times. This is like I want to say like the fourth or fifth movie as well, which I'm sure like teases Mr. Sinister's involvement and then never delivers on it, which is just at this point it's getting really annoying.
Oh my god. I just now saw something that terrifies me.
Could they not have got somebody from Scotland to do a Scottish
A Scottish?
accent?
Can I
Scottish accent.
Can I also say that Marilyn Manson did the voice of quote the Smiley Men?
Oh, why? Why?
So this movie had some issues. They announced the
Really?
cast in 2016. They filmed it in 2017 to be put out in 2018. That got delayed due to reshoots, and they didn't release it until August of 2020, which is right in the heart of the COVID pandemic. Not even the heart, really. Like it's still brand fucking new.
Could have gone better.
Good.
So,
Yeah.
John, what was a bright spot in this? Was it just the fact that they treated it like more of a horror movie and that was kind of a different tone?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was the only thing that kind of stood out about it, really. Like I say, Anya Taylor Joy was great as well, and I wouldn't mind seeing her Ilyana pop up in other stuff, but yeah, there's not too much to write home about.
Okay. Well, so let's take a look at some of the numbers. So previously when we've done these episodes, I have compiled what the average box office earnings were and the average percentages. And I told you guys yesterday when I did this, I was surprised. Mm-hmm. So to kind of give you a quick recap, the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies post Endgame or pre Endgame were averaging about $961 million. After Endgame, $693 million. The DC Universe movies did $772 million. The Sony Spider-Man movies did $658 million. The X-Men movies, 188.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Earned way less than everything else. And I was so surprised by that because for the longest time, they were like the only game, the only name in the game. Because like I said, X-Men came out in 2000. I thought they would have made way more fucking money. But no, $188 million average. Another thing, if we want to look at the Rotten Tomato scores, the average Rotten Tomato score for all these movies, pre-Endgame, 85%, post-Endgame, 72%. The DC movies were 57%. The Sony movies were 66%. The X-Men movie average on Rotten Tomatoes, 67%. So just 1% higher than the Sony Spider-Man world. So there, let's put out some real quick things right there. Much like we didn't talk about the Disney Plus stuff or the like the Netflix shows or anything like that for Marvel. There are some things that we did not include in this. We did not include the short-lived show The Gifted. We did not include the show Legion, and we did not include the special movie they put out called Once Upon a Deadpool, which I think was like a holiday special.
I have not seen that.
No, neither have I.
Same. So, would you guys like to know what the highest rated of these X-Men movies were, like Rotten Tomato wise?
So it's got to be Days of Future Past is the highest.
Dylan, what do you think did the best?
Deadpool.
You are both incorrect.
What?
What?
Logan did 93%.
Better than Deadpool?
Deadpool was 85, and X-Men Days of Future Past was 90.
Wait, what was Logan?
93.
What? Whoa! Deadpool was only 85?
Deadpool was only 85. Do you want any other movies that did better than Deadpool?
Oh.
Yes.
X-Men First Class did 86.
No.
And they tied with X2 at 85.
No.
What do
Deadpool
you
was
think
better.
the lowest rated one was?
X-Men 2.
No, what? No.
I just said X-Men 2.
No,
didn't
X-Men
lose
3.
Deadpool.
X-Men 3. X-Men 3.
Yeah, The Last Stand.
No.
What?
Last Stand did 57%. The worst received one was Dark Phoenix at 22%.
Ah, jeez.
That killed that franchise.
Okay.
All right. So if you guys want to do line for line, John versus Rotten Tomatoes. John, if you got them ready, we'll go from chronological order. X-Men, Rotten Tomato score 82%.
Mine is 3.5 stars out of 5.
What's that in percentage though? God damn it!
I don't know, like 75% or something, maybe.
Corey, what's that in percentages?
So wait. You said it was 3.5 out of 5?
Yeah.
All right. Hold on.
3.5 out of 5 would be
70%.
what? 70 out of 100. So
7. Yeah, it's 70%.
okay.
So Rotten Tomatoes said that X-Men was a little bit better than you.
Well, I don't have as much nuance as Rotten Tomatoes.
Don't defend yourself.
Oh, do defend yourself. You're the one out here written all these X-Men films. You have a right to make your own statements.
No, what I'm saying is like no one's judging you, John.
All right, we're not judging, but you still have like your own opinions. You're able to say that with dignity, you know?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. X2, Rotten Tomatoes gave that an 85%.
I gave it 4 stars out of 5.
So that's 80%.
That's an 80%.
X-Men: The Last Stand, they gave it 57%. What did you give it?
1.5 stars.
Ooh.
That's 30%. So
There you go.
they liked it a little bit more than you. X-Men Origins Wolverine did 38%.
I gave it 2.5 stars.
Okay.
That's
more.
50%. So you gave it
Yep.
you gave it 50.
Yep.
Hello. Fair. I think that's fair.
X-Men Origins Wolverine? You really liked that starting 20 minutes, didn't you?
I think
Yeah.
50. Yeah, I think 50 minutes is fine because if you think about the first 20 minutes, right? That's fine. The last 20 minutes, half an hour, shite. The middle part is okay.
X-Men First Class, Rotten Tomatoes gave it 86%.
I gave it 4 stars out of 5.
That's 80%.
That's 80%. Yeah.
The Wolverine, they gave it 71%.
I gave it 3.5 stars.
That's 70%.
Hey,
That's real close.
we're getting this is good shit. This is really good shit.
X-Men Days of Future Past, they gave it 90%. What'd you give it?
I gave it 5 stars.
100%. And Dylan just blew the audio. Oh dear.
I got very excited about that. I'm sorry.
Oh boy. All right, Deadpool gave it 85%.
Where's Deadpool? no, where's he gone? No, I gave, I gave.
Dylan, get ready.
There we go.
I gave this 5 stars.
That's the best I can do. Hopefully there's no more 5 stars.
I don't think
That's-
there should be.
That's
Well,
the
maybe
best
there's
you're gonna
another
get.
two. Maybe there's another 2. X-Men Apocalypse, 47%.
I gave it 3 stars.
All right, that's 60%.
Generous.
Logan, 93%. Warm yourself up,
Let-
Dylan.
Let's crack my knuckles really quick. All right.
Me.
Sorry, I got
All right,
the
hang on.
word.
Let me just stay stretch this. All right. I'm good.
Do your vocal warm-ups.
Come on now.
Now.
Come on now.
I gave this 4.5 stars.
Oh, okay, well.
Oh!
Don't put as much effort into that one. It's only 4.5 5.
That was still pretty good though.
Yeah.
Still pretty good.
Deadpool 2, 84%.
I gave that 4 stars.
Ooh.
Dark Phoenix, 22%.
I gave that probably a generous 3 stars out of 5.
Oh, that is really generous. And the last one, New Mutants, got a 36%.
And that I gave 3 stars out of 5 as well.
Wow, you're really nice to him.
Yeah.
3
I'm
stars
easily
is probably
pleased.
pretty generous, right?
So the movie that made the most money in the box office, what would you assume that would be?
I would assume the movie that made the most noise in this podcast.
Which was?
The one I made the most noise at. What
You
was the
don't
one I
remember
made
which
the most noise at? What was it?
Days of Future Past, wasn't it?
Future Past made, yeah, that was a big one, right? We get the
Yeah,
full.
that
That was the
the
first
really-
5-star one, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
That one there.
So-
That one.
Deadpool did $363 million.
Okay.
The next one after that was Deadpool 2 at $324 million. And then it's a pretty steep drop by about
Okay.
$100 million.
Wow.
Because after that is X-Men The Last Stand at 234, Days of
Whoa.
Future Past at 233, and then Logan at 226.
Wait a minute. So the one I fucking made the big deal out of isn't in
make
the
as
top
much money.
5?
Well, it's in the top 5. It just it's just not
Fifth?
the most earning.
That's pretty low, man.
I just I think what it is a lot of people got burned by the X-Men movies previously.
Why?
They
The
just
first
didn't
one was
trust them.
good. Second
Well,
one
yeah,
was
I
good.
think that's the thing is I feel like there was a sliding scale in quality though, because you went Last Stand to X-Men Origins Wolverine, and then the Wolverine, which a lot of people thought was kind of forgettable, obviously, because we were kind of struggling to remember some plot elements of it.
Yeah.
And then you just jump into Days of Future Past, and I feel like a lot of that hurt Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, and he was a very big part of Days of Future Past. I think maybe people just didn't trust it.
How could they not trust Hugh Jackman as Wolverine? What a delightful boy.
So the movie that earned the least amount, obviously, is New Mutants because it didn't get a theater release because of the pandemic. But before that, it was Dark Phoenix at $65 million.
Yeesh.
65 million is pretty good though.
Well,
Yeah,
considering
that's
the movie
awful.
considering the next movie,
65 million? If somebody came up to me and said, "Here's 65 million pounds for a film you made," I'm like, "Thank you."
Yeah, but they probably spent like I don't know, 150 million on the budget alone. So
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
but
like
how
counting
much did I
marketing.
make of my film? Not that much. So
If you double, so the next one after that, like the second lowest earning, was the Wolverine at 132. So that's like more than double of what Dark Phoenix did. Like that's to illustrate how poor Dark Phoenix did.
right, fair enough. Fair enough.
But I wouldn't necessarily trust it because after that, I mean, we talked about how X-Men First Class did, was pretty good, and it did 146.
Yeah.
And then X-Men Apocalypse did 155, and then the first X-Men did 157. I told you the thing that surprised me the most about these movies was like in comparison to other superhero movies, they didn't really earn a ton of money.
Right.
So it's kind of surprising that Fox held on to them as long as they did before selling them over to Disney.
absolutely.
Maybe they just thought they could just, I think that's like the Sony problem too, and even the DC problem of like, well, Marvel can make a bunch of money on this. Surely we can too.
Yeah, I think that was part of it. They were like, "Well, why are these guys making money off it? And we can't make money off it." Like, well, maybe the part of it is they're making good films and they're well advertised. Like maybe that's part of it too. Like I feel like that's always a big issue with people. Is like you can make the best thing in the world, but if it's not well advertised, then nobody will know about it. The reason that like a lot of people and a lot of movies get across these days is because they have that advertising behind them. Why is Taylor Swift the biggest artist in the world? Because she has advertising behind her. And not to say that she's not good, she is good, but people equally as good as her just aren't getting as much notice as her because they aren't as well advertised. It's the same with films, the same with everything. You can have the best film in the world, but if nobody watches that film, they're not going to know it's the best film in the world because there's not that buzz behind it. And that's just the way I always felt that with the X-Men films. The Marvel cinematic universe always had this big, huge media buzz about them, and the X-Men films didn't. And they had some buzz, but not to the extent that the Marvel films did. And I think that's part of why all of that shit didn't quite get over the way it should have got over. And they're all like good, they're fine. We've talked about this, they're all fine films. There's no like real shitty films. You could argue that the third film, Last Stand, was shite, whatever. But most of them are pretty good. It's just the fact that the marketing wasn't there for them. I think that's the real takeaway is that you can make the greatest film in the world. It doesn't matter if the market isn't there. Like we said, what did you say was the highest rated film in these X-Men films?
Logan.
Logan, the first one.
No, Logan is the old man Logan one.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, okay, well that defeats my point because I was gonna say that's the best one. It is the best one, so fair enough. All right, well I guess I'll just go home then. Fuck me then, right? Anyway, I still stand by the point that a lot of the media doesn't help these guys, but they don't prop a lot of that stuff up when they should do. Whatever. I'm not gonna get anything.
No, you're good. So it's we've been recording now for a good bit. We've worked our way through all of the movies. That took. I enjoyed this because I feel like when we were talking about the Marvel movies, there wasn't as much conversation about some of the movies, and I feel like we really dove into some of these. But is there any closing remarks you have on the X movies? Like I said, we don't really know what the future of these are going to look like, aside from Deadpool and Wolverine is coming out in 2024, and a lot of people's expectations are this is the one that's going to break the wall into the MCU.
Which I don't really understand how that's going to work because so much of, like the X-Men is kind of mixed into the past. Like, Magneto's origins, go back to World War II and stuff. I don't think we can really do that again.
Well, and I doubt Disney would want to.
Yeah, well, yeah.
I doubt Disney would really want to go into the Holocaust.
But it's going to feel weird as well, introducing them and just saying all of a sudden, oh, hey, we've got mutants. Where have they come from? Obviously.
Where they come from?
Well, Magneto's going to be an old man if he shows up. And if he's an old man with, all these mutant abilities, where's he been for the last, 15, 20 years that we've been making these movies?
Right.
There's weird sort of inconsistencies that they're gonna need to figure out ways around, which is part of the reason why I think when it comes to Secret Wars and stuff, they're gonna basically blow up the universe and recast everything and start all over again, which is not a bad thing.
I mean, I kind of agree with that, but also I feel like the problem with the Marvel universe, and Corey, you'll agree with this, it's the same with the DC universe, is that whenever you're making a film, you have to make one film about one guy. And so it's very hard, especially for a guy like Magneto, who's been a very specifically X-Men character, right? Like if you look at the other villains that they've shown in the Marvel universe, they're very broad. Not to say that Magneto isn't, but a lot of those guys are much broader than Magneto is. Magneto is very much an X-Men character, an X-Men villain. So we can understand why they haven't introduced him already, because they have other villains that cross the Avengers and cross Spider-Man and cross a lot of those other genres, those other characters. You can see that. You can understand that. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I understand why they haven't introduced Magneto already, because it makes sense to me. You know, they have all these other guys that are bigger threats. Like Thanos is clearly a bigger threat than Magneto. That makes sense to me. Kang, if the stars aligned and it worked all right, would have been a bigger threat than Magneto. Like that makes sense to me. You know what I mean?
Well,
Um,
that kind of goes to the whole like how long can you keep the MCU running? I mean, we talked a while ago about how thanks to the Eternals, there's a part of a celestial just in the ocean, like sticking up. Like, at what point can you no longer just tell like a simple superhero story because everything's become so epic? Like, it wouldn't make sense why this character would be struggling against this particular thing. I guess I'm thinking of like the Captain America Disney Plus series that they ran, where it was like Falcon and Winter Soldier dealing with a gang of people who got superhero soldier serum. And like you would just know if like the Steve Rogers Captain America was there, it wouldn't be a problem because like had a fist fight with a mad god essentially. So like a bunch of people hopped up on a weaker version of what he has shouldn't be a problem. Like, at what point does it just get too epic that you can't tell anything that's not at that same level or even higher?
but that's what I like about all of the Marvel. And then, like, if you think about Spider-Man, he's a much more grounded character. And I haven't seen the Daredevil show, but I imagine the Daredevil's much the same, and that the characters in the Daredevil show are much more grounded than the Avengers, because the whole point of the Avengers is they're supposed to protect the Earth, and they're supposed to protect people against guys like Thanos and Kang. That makes sense. And then if you look at Spider-Man, he's supposed to be much more grounded and fight people like Magneto and Doctor Octopus, who are just happy to take over Manhattan or whatever. Like that makes sense. You know, there's levels to it. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, like where does Magneto fit into that part of it? Magneto really only fits into A, fighting the X-Men, or B, just one day deciding he's going to take over the entire world, which is quite a leap into the Avengers canon. The if they do that in a film, then they also have to establish the other shit Magneto did, and that will take up quite a part of the film to establish that Magneto is a big threat and why he's a big threat and why he's trying to do this shit. What you need to do is establish that in other films.
Well, we've been recording now for a good bit, so we should probably go ahead and sign off for now. This was our practice in I don't know. We have a couple more like film series things we could do, I'm sure. But this was kind of the last of the real big ones, conquering the X-Men world, considering they were consistently putting out movies for the last like 25 years. But we're not completely done with the X-Men yet, because it's come up a couple of times, and it is something we're going to do. There was a pilot in 1996 for a Generation X TV show that was about an hour and a half long. It was put out on Fox, and I think John and I are the only people who watched it, and Dylan gets to
Yeah, I have
experience
not.
Generation X for the first
I
time.
have not seen them.
And John and I probably both watched it back in 1996.
Yeah. A long, long time ago.
A good bit ago. About 20 years ago, maybe 30. But yeah, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to call this a show. It's been lovely being with you all once more.
Thank you.
If you're watching on YouTube, check us out on Spotify. If you're listening to us on Spotify, check us out on YouTube. Cross-pollinate. It's good for the environment.
If you're watching us on YouTube, please leave us comments about all the stuff you heard today. What was the? Did we say anything funny in today's episode that we should make a comment on?
I mean, some intermarriage is, just a tribute. We also have John versus Letterboxd, or John versus Rotten Tomatoes. So if you
John versus John versus Rotten Tomatoes is a good,
If you feel like John's opinions were better than Rotten Tomatoes, please leave a comment.
If we do other shows where John's opinions are versus the Rotten Tomatoes thing, we want to hear what you think. What are your scores? Are you in line with John? Because if you're not in line with John, you're probably wrong.
Yep. John has watched 496 movies so far this year. What have you
Let's be honest with ourselves. John is the most accurate film person I've ever met. Wow. When it comes to films, if you go to John and go, what do you think of this film? And he says something, I would agree with that.
So in other words, follow me on Letterboxd.
Follow John on Letterboxd. John, what's your Letterboxd saying?
It is Big John Bowski with no H in John, because that would be wrong.
That'd be wrong.
There you go.
So follow him on Letterboxd. Corey, how do they follow people on you? Whatever you do.
I don't have social media for the most part.
Great. I don't remember what my thing is. What the fuck is my thing? I have no idea. I'm on Instagram, but that's it. What the fuck, guys? What's my Instagram thing?
Is it Captain Explodey?
I think so. Hang on. Captain Explodey. Yeah, just Google Captain Explodey. You'll probably find me.
Yeah, you'll probably find Dylan.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's been lovely seeing you all once more. We'll see you again in the future. Behave yourselves. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Fuck you.